Commander Park Geo stood on the observation deck of Earth's orbital station, watching the alien ships approach. The massive vessels looked like nothing humans had ever built. They were covered in sharp spikes and glowing symbols that hurt to look at directly. "Sir, the alien delegation is requesting permission to board," said Lieutenant Nam Sujin from her communications console. Her voice was steady, but Jiho could hear the nervousness underneath. "Granted," Jiho replied. He adjusted his uniform and checked his sidearm. 3 months ago, first contact had changed everything. Now Earth was being invited to join something called the Galactic Coalition. The price of membership was simple: help them fight a war. The airlock hissed open, and the aliens entered. Jiho had seen them on video calls, but seeing them in person was different. The Saurians walked on 2 legs like humans, but they were covered in green scales and had long tails that dragged behind them. Their hands ended in sharp claws, and their teeth looked like they could bite through steel. Behind them came the Chitauri, insect-like creatures with 4 arms and compound eyes that reflected the station's lights. "Greetings, human commander," said the lead Saurian in heavily accented English. "I am War Leader Thask. This is Hive Mind Zix of the Chitauri." Jiho nodded politely. "Welcome aboard. I'm Commander Park Geo. This is Dr. Kim Nari, our xenobiologist, and Ambassador Yoon Hana." Thask looked around the station with obvious disappointment. "Your technology is ... primitive. Your weapons are chemical-based projectiles. Your armor is soft metal. How do you expect to fight the Void Swarm with such tools?" Dr. Nari stepped forward. She had been studying the aliens for weeks, learning everything she could about their biology and culture. "We may not have your natural weapons, but we have other advantages. Our manufacturing capabilities, our organizational skills." "Soft flesh speaks of organization," chittered Zix, the insect alien's translator making its voice sound mechanical. "But organization means nothing when enemies tear your limbs from your body." Ambassador Yoon Hana maintained her diplomatic smile. "Perhaps we should discuss the terms of Earth's membership in the coalition." Thask waved a clawed hand dismissively. "Terms are simple. You provide soldiers, ships, and supplies. In return, we protect your world from the swarm. Your warriors will serve in support roles, of course. Real fighting is for real warriors." Jiho felt his jaw tighten. "Support roles? Logistics, communications, medical support. Your kind lacks the natural weapons and armor needed for true combat," Thask explained, flexing his claws. "Saurians have been bred for war for 1,000 generations. Our scales can stop plasma bolts. Our claws can tear through battle armor. Humans are fragile." Through the station's windows, more alien ships arrived. Jiho saw vessels from species he'd only read about in the Coalition files. The rocky golem ships looked like flying mountains. The crystalline Vorthan vessels sparkled like diamonds. Each species seemed to have evolved for warfare in ways humans had not. "Tell us about this Void Swarm," Dr. Nari said, pulling out her tablet to take notes. Zix's compound eyes focused on her. "Parasites. They consume entire worlds, leaving nothing but empty husks. They spread through space like a plague, turning everything they touch into more of themselves." Thask nodded grimly. 3 coalition worlds have already fallen, millions of warriors dead. The swarm grows stronger with each victory. They adapt quickly, learning from each battle. "How long before they reach Earth?" Ambassador Yoon asked. 2 years, perhaps 3, Thask replied, "if we cannot stop them at the outer colonies." Jiho studied the tactical displays the aliens had brought. The swarm's advance looked unstoppable. Red markers showed fallen worlds, while blue markers showed coalition defensive positions that kept retreating. Your battle tactics seem to focus on individual combat, Jiho observed. Warrior against warrior, using natural weapons and personal armor. Of course, Dask said proudly. Honor demands face-to-face combat. Only cowards fight from a distance. Dr. Nari exchanged a glance with Jiho. Human military doctrine emphasized the opposite: coordinated fire support, combined arms, and technological advantages to minimize casualties while maximizing effectiveness. We'll need to see your training facilities, Jiho said. If human forces are going to integrate with coalition armies, we need to understand your methods. The next day, a human delegation visited the main coalition base on Earth's moon. The training grounds were impressive but brutal. Saurian warriors fought with claws and plasma weapons in single combat. Chitauri soldiers used their natural armor and acid spit in individual duels. Other species demonstrated their own natural weapons: the rock-hard fists of the golems, the energy manipulation of the Vorthans. Magnificent, Dask said, watching two saurians tear at each other with their claws. This is how warriors are. Made, through pain, through blood, through proving individual strength. Captain Lee Dongwu, Earth's top fighter pilot, watched the aerial combat demonstrations. Alien pilots flew in loose formations, breaking off to engage in individual dogfights. There was no coordination, no wingman support, no tactical communication. They're brave, he whispered to Jiho, but they fight like it's still the Middle Ages. Dr. Nari was taking extensive notes on the alien combat styles. Their natural weapons are impressive, she admitted, but they're not using combined tactics. No suppressing fire, no overlapping fields of fire, no coordinated maneuvers. That's warrior coward talk, Dask said, overhearing. True strength comes from individual prowess, not hiding behind others. Ambassador Yoon managed the formal ceremonies as Earth officially joined the coalition. The signing took place in the Grand Hall of the Moon Base, with representatives from all 12 alien species present. Each species had brought examples of their finest warriors, massive creatures with natural armor, claws, fangs, and other biological weapons that could tear through metal. Beside them, the human delegation looked small and weak. Jiho wore standard military fatigues and carried a simple projectile rifle. His skin was soft, his body unarmored except for synthetic materials. By all appearances, humans were the weakest species in the coalition. "Welcome, Earth Clan, to the Galactic Coalition," announced the ceremony leader, a towering crystal being. "From the Vorthan species. May your warriors die with honor in the coming battles." After the ceremony, Jiho met with his senior staff to discuss their new assignment. Captain Lee Dong-woo would command the human fighter squadrons. Sergeant Cho Minho would lead the infantry units. Lieutenant Nam Soo-jing would handle communications and coordination. "Sir, with respect, they're treating us like amateurs," Sergeant Minho said bluntly. "They want us to carry supplies and send messages while they do the real fighting." "Maybe. That's not such a bad thing," Dr. Nari said quietly. "I've been studying their battle records. Their casualty rates are enormous. They lose 30 to 40% of their forces in every major engagement, because they fight like berserkers." Captain Dongwu added, "No coordination, no strategy beyond charge and hope for the best." Jiho looked at the tactical briefings they'd been given. The next major battle would be at Kepler 442b, a mining world in the outer colonies. Coalition intelligence suggested the Void Swarm was already moving toward the planet. "We'll follow orders for now," Jiho decided, "but stay alert. I have a feeling we're going to learn a lot about warfare in the next few weeks." As the meeting broke up, Dr. Nari approached Jiho privately. "Commander, I've been analyzing the alien combat footage. Their beast warrior approach might work against traditional enemies, but the Void Swarm seems different. They use swarm tactics, coordinated attacks, adaptive strategies. And our alien allies are charging into that with claws. And teeth, Jiho said grimly. This is going to be a massacre. Outside the moon base's windows, the alien fleet prepared to depart for Kepler 442b, hundreds of warships from dozens of species, each one crewed by warriors who had evolved for individual combat over millions of years. They had natural weapons, thick armor, and centuries of warrior tradition. But as Jiho watched them prepare for battle, he couldn't shake the feeling that evolution and tradition might not be enough against an enemy that adapted and learned from every encounter. The real test was about to begin. The Coalition fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler 442b system, and immediately everyone knew something was wrong. The mining world hung in space like a diseased fruit, covered in black growths that pulsed with sickly light. "Bye." The ancient scales, war leader Thask hissed from the command bridge. The swarm has already infested the planet. Commander Park Geo studied the tactical displays from the human observation post. Dr. Kim Nari worked frantically at her console, analyzing the biological readings from the planet's surface. The infestation covers roughly 60% of the planet, she reported. The growth pattern suggests they've been here for at least 2 weeks. Impossible, Ask snarled. Our scouts reported the system was clear just 5 days ago. They move faster than your intelligence predicted, Geo sighed carefully. He didn't want to offend the alien commander, but the facts were obvious. Captain Lee Dong-woo listened to the tactical briefings from his fighter squadron's ready room. The battle plan was typically straightforward. Alien warriors would assault the planet directly, while human forces maintained communications and supply lines from orbit. Remember, he told his pilots, we're here to provide support only, no engaging unless directly ordered. Private Kang Hyun-woo checked his equipment for the 3rd time. At 19, he was the youngest member of Sergeant Cho Minho's infantry squad. This would be his first real combat, and the butterflies in his stomach felt more like angry wasps. Relax, kid, Sergeant Minho said, noticing Hyun-woo's nervousness. We're just running communications. The big, scary aliens do all the fighting. But as they watched the alien assault forces prepare for the drop, Hyun-woo couldn't shake the feeling that something was about to go very wrong. The first wave of Coalition dropships launched toward the planet. Saurian warriors roared battle, cries as their ships broke through the atmosphere. Chitauri soldiers clicked their mandibles in anticipation. The other alien species prepared their natural weapons and biological armor for the coming fight. Nam Sujin monitored all. Communications from the Orbital Command Center. At first, everything seemed to go according to plan. The alien forces landed successfully and began advancing toward the swarm strongholds. Then the screaming started. "What's happening down there?" Jiho demanded, rushing to Sujin's station. "I'm getting fragmented reports," she said, her face pale. Something about the swarm being different than expected. The alien forces are taking heavy casualties. On the tactical display, the blue dots representing Coalition forces began disappearing rapidly. Within the first hour, nearly half of the Saurian assault companies had gone dark. "Get me a direct line to Vask," Jiho ordered. "The war leaders." Image appeared on screen, and Jiho was shocked by what he saw. Vask's green scales were covered in black ichor, and his left arm hung useless at his side. "Human commander," Vask gasped. "The swarm, they're not fighting like before. They're coordinated, tactical. They set traps, use ambushes. Our warrior. Traditions are useless against them." Through the static-filled transmission, Jiho could hear the sounds of battle, the roars of alien warriors, and the terrible chittering of the swarm creatures. "We need immediate support," Vask continued. "Send your warriors to reinforce Sector 7. "Sir?" Our orders were to maintain communications, and Geo began. Orders change, Ask roared. Send help or we all die here. Sergeant Minho got the call 10 minutes later. His squad was to establish a forward communications post in Sector 7, where the Saurian forces were being overrun. Lock and load, he told his men. And remember, we're not heroes. We're technicians with guns. But as their dropship descended through the planet's toxic atmosphere, Private Hyun-woo couldn't help but wonder if being a technician with a gun might be exactly what this battle needed. The landing zone was chaos. Saurian warriors fought desperately against waves of swarm creatures that seemed to pour from every crevice in the ground. The aliens fought bravely, using their claws and plasma weapons, but they were being overwhelmed by sheer numbers. Set. Up the comm array behind that rock formation, Sergeant Minho ordered. Hyun-woo, you're on watch. If anything that's not green and scaly comes our way, you shoot it. As his squad worked to establish communications, Hyun-woo watched the battle unfold. The Saurians fought like individual heroes, each warrior taking on multiple swarm creatures in personal combat. They were brave and strong, but they had no coordination. When one warrior fell, the gap in their line wasn't covered by his companions. Sergeant, Hyun-woo called out, those Saurians over there are about to be surrounded. Minho looked where Hyun-woo was pointing. A group of wounded Saurian warriors had taken shelter in a crater, but swarm creatures were flanking them from 3 sides. Not our problem, Minho said firmly. We're here to run communications. But as they watched, the Saurians began to fall one by one. Soon there were only 3 left, then 2, and 1 lone warrior fighting desperately against impossible odds. Ah. Hell, Minho muttered. All right, boys, form a firing line. Overlapping fields of fire. Hyun-woo, you take the left flank. Steady shots don't waste ammunition. The human squad opened fire with their projectile weapons. The bullets weren't as powerful as alien plasma weapons, but they were accurate and coordinated. Instead of individual combat, the humans used suppressing fire to keep the swarm creatures pinned down while they methodically eliminated targets. The surviving Saurian warrior looked up in amazement as the swarm creatures around him began falling. He had never seen warfare conducted with such precision and coordination. Meanwhile, in orbit, Captain Dongwoo watched the battle from his fighter's cockpit. The alien pilots were engaged in individual dogfights with swarm flyers, breaking formation to pursue personal glory. Several had already been shot down because they had no wingman support. This is insane, his second-in-command said over the radio. They're getting slaughtered down there. Dongwoo saw a group of Chitauri air support units being overwhelmed by swarm flyers. Without coordinated tactics, the individual alien pilots were easy targets. Blue Squadron, form up on me, Dongwoo ordered. We're going to show them how air support is supposed to work. Sir, our orders, his wingman began. Our orders are to support coalition forces, Dongwoo interrupted. And that's exactly what we're going to do. The human fighter squadron dove toward the planet in tight formation. Unlike the alien pilots, they maintained communication and coordination throughout the attack. Dongwoo's wingman provided cover, while he eliminated targets. Other pairs worked together, one pilot marking targets while his partner engaged Dot in minutes. They had cleared the sky of swarm flyers and were providing close air support to the beleaguered ground forces. On the ground, Dr. Nari was studying the biological samples that the retreating warriors brought back. What she found disturbed her. Commander, she reported to Geo over the secure channel, the swarm creatures are different from the intelligence reports. They're showing coordinated behavior, tactical thinking. They're responding to the aliens' pheromone signals. What do? You mean? Geo asked. The alien warriors release fear and aggression pheromones during combat. It's natural for their species. But the swarm creatures are using those signals to coordinate their attacks. The more aggressive the aliens get, the more focused the swarm response becomes. Jiho felt a chill run down his spine. Are you saying the aliens' natural fighting instincts are actually helping the enemy? That's exactly what I'm saying, Nari replied. The swarm has evolved to fight species like our coalition allies. But humans don't release the same pheromone signals. We might actually have an advantage. The battle continued for 6 more hours. By the end, the coalition forces had taken heavy casualties, but managed to establish a foothold on the planet. The decisive factor had been the human support units, whose coordinated tactics and emotional discipline had turned several potential disasters into tactical victories. That evening, War Leader Thask visited the human command post. His wounds had been treated, but he moved slowly, and his eyes held a new respect. Human Commander, he said to Jiho, your warriors fought differently today. How so? Jiho asked. Without honor, Thask said, then quickly added, but with great effectiveness. Your soldiers fought as one mind controlling many bodies. It was unsettling to watch. Sergeant Minho's squad had been decorated by the Saurian commanders for their rescue of the surrounded warriors. Private Hyunwoo had overcome his fear and shown natural tactical instincts that impressed even the alien veterans. You did well today, Minho told his squad. But remember, we got lucky. Next time might be different. But as Hyunwoo cleaned his rifle that night, he couldn't help but think that maybe luck had nothing to do with it. Maybe humans brought something different to this war, something the aliens had never seen before. In her laboratory, Dr. Nari continued analyzing swarm tissue samples. The more she learned, the more convinced she became that this war would not be won through individual heroics or warrior traditions. It would be won through coordination, discipline, and the ability to adapt tactics based on enemy behavior. In other words, it would be won by thinking like humans instead of fighting like beasts. The real test was still to come. 3 weeks after the battle at Kepler 442b, the Coalition High Command gathered to review what had gone wrong. The massive council chamber aboard the flagship held representatives from all 12 alien species, their various forms creating a bizarre mixture of scales, chitin, crystal, and stone. Commander Park Jiho sat at the far end of the table with the other human representatives. Colonel Chun Tae-yan, the strategic planning officer, had compiled detailed analysis of the battle footage. Dr. Shin Yeji, the military psychologist, had prepared her report on swarm behavior patterns. War Leader Thask addressed the assembly first. The swarm has changed, he announced gravely. They no longer fight with honor or individual courage. They use tactics, coordination, deception. Our traditional methods are proving insufficient. A massive golem commander, his rock-like body, scarred from countless battles, rumbled his disagreement. Warriors have fought this way for millions of years. Individual strength, personal courage, the will to face death in single combat. These are the foundations of victory. And yet, we lost 40% of our ground forces in 6 hours, said a crystalline Vorthan representative, her voice like wind chimes. Perhaps it is time to consider new approaches. Thask turned to look at the humans. The soft flesh humans showed surprising effectiveness in support roles. Their casualty rates were remarkably low. Colonel Tae-yan stood up, activating a holographic display. With permission, I'd like to present our analysis of the battle. The display showed tactical movements from the battle, with color-coded tracks showing how different units had performed. The alien forces showed chaotic, individual movement patterns. The human units showed coordinated, systematic advances. The fundamental difference, Tae-yan explained, is in unit cohesion and fire discipline. Human forces maintain formation. integrity, and coordinated fields of fire. This creates overlapping zones of control that are difficult for enemies to penetrate. A Jatari hive mind clicked its mandibles dismissively. Coward tactics. True warriors face enemies with personal weapons, not hiding behind covering fire. Dr. Yeji stepped forward. Actually, that's exactly the problem. Our psychological analysis shows that the swarm creatures respond to aggression pheromones released by most coalition species during combat. The more aggressively you fight, the more the swarm focuses its attacks on you. The alien commanders exchanged glances. This was new information. Humans don't release the same chemical signals, Dr. Yeji continued. Our emotional responses are more controlled. Our pheromone signatures different. To the swarm, we're nearly invisible unless we're actively firing weapons. Impossible, Ask said. Fear and aggression are universal responses to combat. Not for humans, Colonel Taeyon replied. Human military training emphasizes emotional discipline and tactical patience. We use fear and aggression as tools, not automatic responses. Before the debate could continue, alarms began blaring throughout the ship. Lieutenant Nam Soo-jin's voice came over the intercom. All senior staff to battle stations. Swarm contacts detected approaching the fleet. The council chamber erupted into chaos as alien commanders rushed to their battle positions. Ji-ho grabbed his weapon and headed for the command center, where he found a scene of organized panic. Report, he called to Soo-jin. Swarm boarding pods. Launched from concealed positions in the asteroid field, she replied quickly. They've already breached the hull in 6 locations. Security teams are responding. On the tactical displays, Ji-ho could see the boarding action unfolding. Swarm creatures had penetrated the ship's outer hull and were advancing through the corridors toward critical systems. The alien security teams were responding with their typical individual warrior approach, and they were losing. Sir, called Major Bai Sung-ho from the security station, alien security teams are requesting immediate reinforcement. They're being overrun in Sections C and D. Deploy human security teams, Ji-ho ordered. Standard room clearing procedures. Coordinated fire and movement. Sung-ho's special operations teams moved through the ship's corridors with methodical precision. Unlike the alien warriors who charged ahead seeking individual combat, the humans advanced in coordinated pairs. One soldier would provide covering fire while his partner moved forward. Then they would switch roles. The difference in effectiveness was dramatic. Private Kang Hin-woo, now a seasoned veteran after the battle on Kepler 442b, led his fire team. Through the ship's engineering section, they had received reports that Saurian warriors were trapped in the main power core chamber by a large group of swarm creatures. Remember your training, Sergeant Cho Minho said over the radio. Slow and steady. Use your grenades to flush them out, then coordinated fire to put them down. As they approached the power core chamber, Hyun-woo could hear the sounds of desperate combat. Saurian roars mixed with the chittering of swarm creatures. When they rounded the corner, they saw 3 Saurian warriors backed against the power core, surrounded by at least 20 swarm creatures. The aliens were fighting bravely, using their claws and plasma weapons, but they were clearly losing. Each warrior fought individually, leaving gaps in their defense that the swarm creatures exploited. Grenades first, Minho ordered. Flashbangs to disorient, and fragmentation to break up their formation. The human team's grenades exploded, in sequence, stunning the swarm creatures and disrupting their coordinated attack. Before the aliens could recover, the humans opened fire with disciplined volleys, each soldier covering a specific field of fire dot in 30 seconds, all 20. Swarm creatures were dead. The surviving Saurian warriors stared at the humans in amazement. They had seen individual courage before, but never such clinical, efficient violence. Throughout the ship, similar scenes played out. Human security teams systematically cleared each section, using suppressing fire, coordinated movement, and tactical patience to overcome swarm resistance. Where alien warriors saw personal combat, humans saw tactical problems to be solved. Captain Lee Dongwu led the fighter response to the swarm. Attack ships outside the hull. Unlike the alien pilots who broke formation to engage in individual dogfights, Dongwu kept his squadron in tight coordination. Blue leader to all flights, he called over the radio. Maintain formation integrity. We're going to hit them with coordinated strikes, not individual attack runs. The human fighters swept through the swarm formation like surgeons' scalpels, each pilot supporting his wingman while maintaining overall squadron coordination. The alien pilots watched in fascination as the humans demonstrated air combat as a team sport rather than individual competition. That in 2 hours, the boarding action was over. The swarm creatures had been eliminated with minimal coalition casualties. The difference in performance between human and alien security teams was impossible to ignore. That evening, War Leader Vask visited the human command center personally. His green scales showed fresh scars from the fighting, but his eyes held a new understanding. "Human commander," he said to Geo, "I have fought in hundreds of battles across 50 worlds. I have never seen warriors fight as yours did today." "How so?" Geo asked. "Without passion," Vask replied, then quickly added, "but with terrible effectiveness. Your soldiers showed no fear, no anger, no desire for personal glory. They killed like machines, but intelligent machines." Dr. Yeji looked up from her reports. "It's not that we don't feel fear or anger. It's that we use those emotions instead of letting them use us. Human military doctrine teaches emotional control as a combat skill. Your warriors fought as one mind controlling many bodies," Ask continued. "It was disturbing to watch, but undeniably effective." Colonel Taeyun activated his tactical displays again. Would the Coalition High Command be willing to consider adopting human tactical doctrines for future engagements? The alien commander was quiet for a long moment. Everything in his culture, his evolution, his warrior traditions said that individual combat was the only honorable way to fight. But the results spoke for themselves. What would such training involve? Vask asked finally. Fire discipline, unit cohesion, coordinated movement, emotional control under stress, Taeyun replied. Your warriors are brave and strong. We're not trying to change that. We're trying to make that bravery more effective. Over the following days, human instructors began working with alien warriors. The cultural barriers were immense. Species that had evolved for individual combat struggled to understand concepts like suppressing fire and tactical patience. But slowly, gradually, some of the alien units began to show improvement. Saurian warriors learned to advance in coordinated pairs. Chitauri soldiers practiced overlapping fields of fire. Even the proud golem fighters began to understand the value of tactical discipline. Private Hinwu found himself training a young Saurian warrior named Vash. The alien was eager to learn but struggled with the concept of restraint in combat. Why do you not charge the enemy? Vash asked during one training session. Are humans cowards? We charge when charging will win the battle, Hinwu explained patiently. But sometimes waiting and shooting is more effective than running forward with claws. But where is the honor in shooting from far away? The swarm hive ship appeared on long-range sensors like a cancerous growth against the stars. It was massive beyond anything the Coalition had ever encountered, 30 kilometers long and covered in the same black, pulsing material that had infected Kepler-442b. Admiral Park Yunji, Commander Jiho's sister, and the newly appointed human fleet commander studied the tactical displays aboard the Coalition flagship. The alien commanders around her looked grim as they absorbed the scale of the threat. Intelligence estimates the hive ship carries over 1 million swarm creatures, reported War Leader Desk, plus manufacturing facilities to create more during combat. Our standard assault tactics call for direct frontal attack, rumbled the Golem commander. All ships advance in line formation. Engage with maximum firepower. Admiral Yunji shook her head. That's exactly what the swarm expects. They've been studying coalition tactics for months. A frontal assault will result in catastrophic losses. Then, what do you propose, human admiral? Asked the crystalline Vorthan representative. Yunji activated the holographic battle display. Naval doctrine from Earth suggests a different approach. Coordinated fleet movements, concentrated firepower at specific points, strategic retreats to draw enemy forces into kill zones. The alien commanders looked skeptical. Their warrior cultures emphasized courage and direct confrontation. The idea of retreating, even strategically, was difficult for them to accept. We've had some success with human tactical methods on a small scale, Vask admitted reluctantly. But this is fleet combat. Ship-to-ship warfare is different from ground fighting. The principles are the same, Yunji replied. Coordination, discipline, using enemy expectations against them. Before the debate could continue, alarms sounded throughout the fleet. The hive ship had launched its first wave of attack vessels. Thousands of smaller craft swarming toward the coalition fleet like angry insects. All ships assume standard battle formation, ordered the Golem commander over the fleet communication system. Negative, Admiral Yunji countermanded. Human ships will demonstrate alternative tactics. All coalition vessels observe and learn. The human fleet broke from the main formation, moving in coordinated groups rather than individual ships. Unlike the alien vessels which scattered to engage in ship-to-ship duels, the human ships maintained tight formations with overlapping defensive fire. Captain Li Dongwu led the fighter squadrons in a similar coordinated attack. Instead of individual dogfights, his pilots worked in pairs and quartets, each group supporting the others in a complex dance of mutual protection. Blue Squadron maintained formation integrity, Dongwu called over the radio. We're going to punch through their line at coordinates 77 Alpha, then turn and hit them from behind while Gold Squadron attacks from the front. The results were dramatic. The human fighters and ships cut through the swarm formations like surgical instruments, causing maximum damage while taking minimal losses. The alien observers watched in amazement as human units demonstrated warfare as a coordinated science rather than individual heroism. But the real test came when the coalition attempted its first assault on the hive ship itself. Major Bei Sungho led the infiltration mission, his special operations team assigned to penetrate the hive ship's defenses and plant nuclear charges at critical points. Unlike traditional alien assault tactics, which relied on overwhelming force, Sungho's team used stealth technology and precise strikes. Remember, he told his team as they approached the hive ship in a modified stealth transport, we're not heroes trying to win glory. We're technicians with a job to do. The team included Corporal Yang Jiwan, a sniper specialist whose accuracy had become legendary among both human and alien forces. Private Kong Hyunwoo, now a veteran of multiple engagements, had been promoted to team leader for one of the assault squads. The hive ship's exterior was a nightmare of organic architecture. Pulsing veins carried nutrients through the structure, while defensive turrets that looked like enormous eyes tracked movement across the hull. Motion sensors are biological, Dr. Kim Nari reported from the command ship. The swarm uses living detection systems. They'll respond to rapid movement and elevated stress hormones. Perfect, Sungho replied. Slow and steady, just like training. Control your breathing. Control your heart rate. Control your fear. The infiltration team moved. across the hive ship's hull like ghosts. Their movements were deliberate and controlled. Their biometric signatures kept artificially low through meditation techniques taught in human military training. To the swarm's biological sensors, they were barely detectable. Meanwhile, the main assault force prepared for a diversionary attack. This was where the alien warriors would play their part, not as individual heroes, but as coordinated units using the tactical methods they had learned from human instructors. The first test came as swarm defenders detected the infiltration team and began converging on their position. Sung Ho's team found themselves surrounded in a massive chamber filled with organic machinery that pulsed with alien life. "Contact front," called one of the team members as swarm creatures began pouring through the chamber's entrances. "Steady," Sung Ho replied calmly. "Fire discipline. Pick your targets." "Jiwan, you're on overwatch." Corporal Yang Jiwan found a position on an elevated platform and began picking off swarm creatures with methodical precision. Each shot was carefully aimed, each target selected for maximum tactical effect. She didn't shoot the biggest or closest enemies, she shot the ones directing the others. The difference was immediately apparent. Without their coordinating creatures, the swarm's attack became disorganized and chaotic. The human team was able to establish overlapping fields of fire and systematically eliminate the threat. "This is impossible," Hyun-woo muttered as he reloaded his weapon. There were over 100 of them. "Numbers don't matter if they're not coordinated," Sung-ho replied. "And coordination is what we do best." Outside the hive ship, Admiral Yoonji was demonstrating the same principles on a larger scale. The human fleet moved in coordinated formations, concentrating fire on specific points of the hive ship's defenses rather than spreading attacks across the entire target. "Focus all weapons on Section 7, she ordered over the fleet communications. "Sustained bombardment for 60 seconds, then shift to Section 12. The alien commanders watched as the human fleet's coordinated fire punched holes through the hive ship's defenses with surgical precision. Each attack was timed and positioned to support the next one, creating cascading failures in the enemy's defensive systems. "How do they coordinate so precisely?" asked the Vorthen fleet commander. "Practice," War Leader Thask replied, his voice filled with grudging respect. "Endless practice until coordination becomes instinctive." The real breakthrough came when the alien forces began implementing the tactics they had learned from human instructors. Saurian assault teams moved in coordinated pairs, providing covering fire for each other instead of charging individually. Chitauri fighters used suppressing fire to pin down enemies while their companions flanked around. Even the proud Golem warriors, whose rock-hard bodies had always relied on individual strength, began working together in coordinated formations. Their natural armor made them nearly invulnerable, but when combined with human tactical doctrine, they became an unstoppable force. "This is remarkable," Dr. Kim Nari observed from her monitoring station. "The alien forces are showing a 60% improvement in combat effectiveness compared to previous engagements." Inside the hive ship, Sung Ho's team had reached the primary target, a massive organic reactor that powered the creature's offensive systems. The chamber was enormous, filled with pulsing conduits and biological machinery that defied human understanding. "Plant the charges here, here, and here," Sung Ho ordered, indicating critical structural points. "Synchronized detonation in 15 minutes. As his team worked, more swarm creatures began converging on their position. But now the diversionary assault was drawing most of the hive ship's attention. Coalition forces fighting with newly learned human tactics were making significant progress against the outer defenses. "Sir," Hyun-woo called out, "we've got massive movement on all levels. It looks like the entire hive is mobilizing." "Good," Sung-ho replied. "That means our friends outside are doing their job." Captain Dongwoo was leading the fighter assault on the hive ship's weapon systems. His squadron worked in perfect coordination, each pilot knowing exactly where his wingman would be at any given moment. "Gold Leader, this is Blue Leader," he called over the radio. "We're beginning our attack run on the primary weapons array. Maintain covering formation and watch for defensive fire." The human fighters swept across the hive ship's surface like a coordinated swarm, each attack run precisely timed to support the others. Unlike the chaotic individual attacks typical of alien air combat, every movement was planned and coordinated. The effect was devastating. The hive ship's defensive systems, designed to deal with individual attackers, couldn't adapt quickly enough to counter the coordinated assault. "Charges are set," Suho reported from inside the hive ship. "All teams, begin withdrawal to extraction points." 6 months after the destruction of the hive ship, the Coalition had transformed. The war rooms that once echoed with arguments between alien commanders now hummed with coordinated planning. Species that had fought as individual warriors for millions of years were learning to work as unified teams. General Lim Wujin, the overall human commander, stood before a mixed assembly of human and alien officers. The conference room aboard the new Coalition command ship represented something unprecedented in galactic history: genuine cooperation between radically different species. "Long-range sensors have detected the Swarm Queen ship," he announced, activating the holographic display. The image that appeared made even the battle-hardened veterans gasp. The Queen ship dwarfed the previous hive ship, stretching over 100 kilometers and surrounded by a fleet of smaller vessels. Intelligence estimates placed the Swarm fleet at over 10,000 ships, reported Dr. Kim Nari. The Queen ship itself contains manufacturing facilities capable of producing 1 million new swarm creatures per day. War Leader Vask, now serving as Joint Tactical Coordinator, studied the display grimly. "This is their final push. If we cannot stop them here, they will overrun the Coalition core worlds within weeks. Then we stop them here," said General Wujin simply. "The question is how." Captain Lee Dongwu, now promoted to Wing Commander, highlighted the tactical challenges. "The Queen ship's defenses are unlike anything we've seen. Adaptive armor, self-repairing systems, and biological weapons that respond to conventional attacks. Their greatest strength may also be their weakness," observed engineer Ru Heron, who had been analyzing captured swarm technology. "Their biological systems are all interconnected. If we can find the right pressure point, the entire structure becomes vulnerable." Private Kang Hyun-woo, now a sergeant training mixed human-alien squads, raised his hand. "Sir, what about the civilian populations on the core worlds? If we fail here—" "We won't fail," General Wujin said firmly. "But you're right to think about them. This battle isn't just about military victory. It's about protecting everything we've built together." The preparation for the final battle revealed how much the Coalition had changed. Human engineers worked alongside alien technicians to modify weapons and ships. Saurian warriors trained with human tactics instructors. Chitauri soldiers practiced coordinated maneuvers with Golem fighters. Medic Song Kyungmin established field hospitals that treated all species equally. Her staff included alien healers who had learned human medical techniques, creating hybrid treatment methods that were more effective than either species could achieve alone. "The remarkable thing," she told Dr. Nari during one of their planning sessions, "is how quickly they've adapted. 6 months ago, most alien species wouldn't even share the same room. Now they're working together to save each other's lives." "It's more than adaptation," Nari replied, watching a group of young Saurians and humans training together. "They're evolving, not biologically, but culturally. They're becoming something new." The Coalition fleet that assembled for the final battle was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Ships from 12 different species moved in coordinated formations, Their crews trained in hybrid tactics that combined alien strengths with human coordination principles. Admiral Park Yoonji commanded the fleet from the bridge of the new flagship, a vessel designed by teams of human and alien engineers working together. The bridge itself reflected this cooperation. Control stations adapted for different alien physiologies, communication systems that could handle multiple languages simultaneously, and tactical displays that showed information the way each species could best understand it. "All ships report ready for jump," reported Lieutenant Nam Sujin, now promoted to Fleet Communications Coordinator. "Very well," Admiral Yoonji said. "Take us to the final battle." The Coalition fleet emerged from hyperspace to face the Swarm Armada. The Queen ship hung in space like a malignant star, its surface crawling with defensive weapons and swarms of fighter craft. Around it, thousands of smaller swarm vessels formed a protective shell. By the ancient scales, breathed Vask. "How do we fight something that large?" "The same way we've been fighting all along," General Woojin replied from the command center. Together. The battle began immediately. Swarm vessels rushed toward the Coalition fleet in massive waves, their tactics designed to overwhelm individual ships through sheer numbers. It was exactly the kind of attack that would have devastated the old Coalition forces. But these weren't the old Coalition forces. Instead of breaking formation to engage in individual ship combat, the Coalition vessels maintained their coordinated formations. They fought as unified squadrons, each ship supporting the others with overlapping defensive fire and coordinated movement. Captain Dong-Woo led the fighter assault, his wings composed of pilots from 6 different species. Each pilot had been trained in human coordination tactics while retaining their species' natural advantages. "Gold Squadron, form up on the Saurian fighters," he ordered over the radio. "Their plasma cannons will punch holes in the swarm formation. Silver Squadron, follow the Chitauri through and hit the command ships." The mixed fighter formations moved through space like flocks of birds, each pilot knowing exactly where his wingmates would be at any given moment. The effect was devastating against swarm fighters that expected individual combat. On the ground assault teams, the transformation was even more dramatic. Sergeant Hyun-woo led a squad that included humans, Saurians and Chitauri, working together as seamlessly as if they had been born to the same species. "Remember your training," he told his mixed squad as they prepared to board a swarm vessel. "We move as one unit. Saurians take point with their armor. Humans provide covering fire. Chitauri handle close combat. Everyone watches everyone else's back." The boarding action was a perfect demonstration of how far the Coalition had come. Each species contributed their natural strengths while following coordinated tactical doctrine. The Saurians' natural armor and plasma weapons created breaching points. The humans' disciplined fire control kept swarm creatures pinned down. The Chitauri's acid weapons cleared defensive positions. But the real test came when they reached the GZ Queen ship itself. The massive vessel's defenses were unlike anything they had encountered. Biological weapons that adapted to different attack types, self-repairing armor that closed breaches almost instantly, and command systems distributed throughout the ship's organic structure. "Traditional assault tactics won't work, Major Bay," Sung-ho reported from his infiltration team. "Every time we breach one system, 3 others adapt to counter our methods. Then we don't use traditional tactics," General Woojin replied. "Engineer Heron, what's the status on your special project?" Heron's voice came over the communication system with barely contained excitement. "The hybrid weapon systems are ready, sir. We've combined human targeting technology with alien energy weapons. The result should be ... interesting." The interesting result was a series of coordinated strikes that hit the Queen ship's distributed command centers simultaneously. Instead of trying to destroy the massive vessel through brute force, the Coalition targeted its ability to coordinate its own defenses. Key insight had come from studying human organizational principles. Just as human military doctrine emphasized coordination and communication, the swarm's effectiveness depended on its ability to coordinate millions of individual creatures. Cut off their communication, disrupt their coordination, and they become just a collection of individual monsters. Dr. Nari explained as she monitored the biological systems. The assault teams worked with surgical precision. Human demolition experts planted charges at critical communication nodes. Saurian warriors provided security with their natural armor and weapons. Chitauri soldiers used their acid weapons to destroy biological conduits that carried coordination. Signals throughout the ship. Corporal Yang Ji-wan, now promoted to sniper team leader, provided overwatch for the entire operation. Her impossible accuracy, combined with alien spotters who could see across different light spectrums, allowed her to eliminate key swarm creatures from ranges that would have been impossible for any single species. Target down, she reported after eliminating another swarm coordinator. That's the last one in Section 7. The effect was immediate and dramatic. As the Queen ship's coordination systems failed, its defenses became chaotic and uncoordinated. Swarm creatures began attacking each other in confusion. Defensive systems fired randomly or not at all. "This is it," General Wujing announced to the entire coalition fleet. "All forces, final assault. Remember, we're not just fighting for our individual worlds. We're fighting for our future together." The final assault was everything the coalition had learned about warfare, condensed into one coordinated strike. Ships from 12 different species moved in perfect formation. Fighter squadrons composed of multiple alien types fought as unified wings. Ground assault teams that would have been impossible to imagine a year earlier worked together with seamless efficiency. But the most remarkable sight was in the medical stations, where Song Kyung-min's teams worked frantically to save casualties. From all species, human medics used alien healing techniques.